Chapter 4. Rosie, the 15-minute rule. Rosie didn't stop running until the air in her lungs felt like jagged glass. She hadn't dared to look back since bursting out of the metro station, her heart hammering a frantic warning against her ribs. She didn't need to see him to know the man had fallen behind. Her own desperate speed and the heavy silence of the street told her she was alone once more. She ducked into a narrow, trash-strewn alley, pressing her back against the cold brick. She slid down to a crouch, her chest heaving as she waited for the world to stop spinning. After a long minute, she stood and began to walk again, her footsteps the only sound in a world that had forgotten how to speak. The alley opened into an old town square. A thick, spectral fog clung to the cobblestones, swirling around the bases of empty benches and darkened storefronts. It felt like a place frozen in the exact moment of the passing, stagnant, eerie, and untouched. Rosie began to move through the square with the efficiency of a ghost. She searched for supplies, but the few homes that weren't boarded up had been picked clean long ago. She checked her internal clock. 10 minutes had passed. Since the incident at the cabin and the encounter in the metro, Rosie had forged a new law for her survival: the 15-minute rule. She would not linger. She would not settle. To stay in one place was to invite the silence to take someone else, or to allow a chaser to catch her. As the 15-minute mark approached, her gaze snagged on a massive glass-fronted structure looming across the square. Its grand entrance stood like a mouth waiting to be filled. Driven by a flicker of curiosity she couldn't quite stifle, Rosie crossed the fog-laden plaza and disappeared into the shadows of the building. The glass atrium. The building was a retail atrium, a cathedral of consumerism reclaimed by silence. As Rosie stepped inside, her eyes widened, and a subtle, involuntary smile tugged at the corners of her mouth. The mall was magnificent. Vines had begun to snake down from the shattered skylights, draped over chrome railings like emerald velvet. The air was cool and smelled of damp earth and old perfume. She knew she had to be quick. 12 minutes. She moved through the corridors, her eyes scanning for essentials. She bypassed the high-end fashion boutiques and the shimmering jewelry displays, heading instead for a small gourmet grocer on the ground floor. She found a single dust-covered juice box in a refrigerated unit that had long since died. She poked the straw in and sipped the sweet, lukewarm apple juice as she walked. On her way back toward the exit, she passed a toy store. She stopped. Through the cloudy, fingerprint-smudged window, she saw dozens of tiny, colorful figurines and building blocks. Rosie pressed her small, pale hand against the glass, her reflection staring back at her, a tired, lonely girl who looked far older than 9. With a sharp, painful sigh, she pulled her hand away, leaving a clear smudge on the glass. She tossed the empty juice box into a nearby bin. It was time to go. But as she turned toward the exit, a wave of exhaustion hit her with the force of a physical blow. Her vision blurred, and her knees felt like water. She tried to fight it, her mind screaming at her to keep moving, but her body had reached its limit. She stumbled toward a discarded floor cushion near the escalators and collapsed. Before she could even close her eyes, the darkness of sleep claimed her. The carousel of monsters. Rosie woke to a soft, wet pressure on her hand. She jerked awake, her heart leaping. A baby deer, its coat dappled with white spots, stood nearby, its large, liquid eyes filled with a terrifying innocence. It had wandered in through the shattered doors, drawn perhaps by the scent of the greenery. Rosie scrambled back, her breath coming in short, panicked bursts. The baby deer moved closer to the escalators. "Where is your mom?" she wondered, her throat tight. "Did I take her too? Did you lose everyone because I slept here?" The deer tilted its head, taking a curious step toward her. Rosie couldn't bear it. She couldn't let it get close. She sprinted up the frozen steps of the nearby escalator, her sneakers squeaking like a dog's chew toy in the hollow space. She didn't look back until she burst through a set of service doors and out into the cooling evening air. Tears streaked her face, hot and stinging, as she ran blindly until she stumbled into a new kind of madness. She found herself at the gates of an amusement park. Her pace slowed to a crawl as her tear-stained face dried in the wind. It was surreal. The park was still powered, perhaps by a solar grid or a lingering automated system. The lights on the rides flickered and hummed, casting long, dancing shadows across the asphalt. The Ferris wheel turned with a slow, agonizing groan, and the midways were lined with brightly colored tents. For a heartbeat, it felt like she had stepped back into the old world. She walked toward the center of the park, where a horse carousel spun in a slow, graceful circle. The horses rose and fell on their gilded poles, their painted eyes wide and staring. The music was a distorted, tinkling melody that grated against the silence of the town. Memories flooded her. Mrs. Kim holding her hand at a fair, the laughter of the children at Sunny Home, the warmth of Mina's light stick. The images felt like ghosts trying to pull her under. Rosie shook her head, gritting her teeth. She did something reckless then, something that defied her rules. She stepped onto the moving platform of the carousel. She grabbed the pole of a white stallion and hoisted herself up, standing precariously on its back. From there, she reached for the ornate, light-studded canopy of the ride. She climbed until she was perched on the very top of the carousel, sitting on the edge of the circular roof. She took a deep, shuddering breath and looked up. The late afternoon sky was bruising into a deep, regal purple. Dusk was falling, and the stars were beginning to peek through the veil of the atmosphere. Below her, the carousel continued its lonely, mechanical dance. A final, bitter thought drifted through her mind as she watched the world darken. "Maybe they're right," she whispered to the wind. "Maybe I am a monster." She looked at her hands, half expecting them to glow with that cursed golden light. But even monsters need a place to call home.